Hello everybody! It is time for another review. Today we are reviewing this book, Unstoppable, My Life So Far by Maria Sharapova. This was a very easy choice for me to make to review this book because not only did I love it so very much, but it's also really not talked about on BookTube. It was a very popular book at the time that it came out. We'll talk more about that in a moment, but I'm really not finding it on BookTube. So here we go. Is this the book that you should be picking up? Well, you might find out about that as we go through this review. For my reviews, I split them up into two sections, a spoiler-free section and a spoiler section. In the spoiler-free section, we talk about the book in a spoiler-free way. In the spoiler section, I get to rant or rave about the book in a spoilery way. So let's get right on to it then and discuss the spoiler-free section of Unstoppable, My Life So Far by Maria Sharapova. To start with, this book is an adult autobiography. I say adult because there are some adult things that come up in this book. For example, the F word is used quite a few times. Another example of a reason as to why this book is an adult book is because it talks about drugs, but I need to be specific about this. So, a little bit of background first of all on Maria. So for those of you who don't follow the sport, Maria was a professional tennis player. She has recently retired. She retired at least, I think, about a year or two after she released this book, so this book does not discuss her retirement, but she was a very successful tennis player during her time, making her way up the ranks, and then in 2014 at Wimbledon, she defeated the then defending champion Serena Williams and just rocketed to stardom. Multiple Grand Slam champion, world number one many times over, and she is known for so many different reasons. Whether you know of her because she became such a very successful entrepreneur with her business Sugarpova, whether you know her because of her grunting on court. Maria's not a quiet tennis player by any means. Whether you know her for her brutal honesty. She's always brutally honest whenever she gives interviews and stuff like that, when she does her press conferences and all that kind of stuff. Or whether you know her because she is such a champion on the tennis court. She's an amazing, amazing tennis champion. So, a couple of years ago, Maria Sharapova took a drug test at the, I don't remember when, 2016 I believe it was, the 2016 Australian Open. She had just come off playing against Serena Williams, and tennis players are very regularly drug tested. In fact, tennis is very well known for being one of the strictest sports when it comes to any kind of testing that is done with the players. So our players, or the players, I say our because I love tennis, but anyway, the tennis players are used to the very strict regimens, especially including drug testing that goes on for them, and they're generally tested after every single match that they play. So with this drug test, Maria was found to be positive, to test positive for a drug known as meldonium. Now this is a drug that is very common in Europe. Maria has said many times publicly that this is a drug that is sold over the counter in Europe, and it's kind of likened to that of a paracetamol, and people take it all the time. It's really no big deal over in Europe. Quite a number of years before this whole meldonium issue surfaced, Maria had gone to her doctor, who had prescribed a number of legal drugs for her to take because of some issues that she was dealing with, and meldonium which she more knew for the branding name, Meldrenaut, was one of the drugs that her doctor was telling her to take. So she had been taking this drug regularly for many, many years. And then in 2016, WADA, the International Sporting Drug Foundation, ended up making Meldonian, illegal. And the Australian Open is played, I mean, by the time Maria was tested, the law would have come into effect maybe for about 3 weeks into the year, because the Australian Open is played in January, the last 2 weeks of that month. So it was a very new rule, and Maria was still taking this drug. Now, there's a lot of speculation over whether or not Maria should have been more careful into looking into the WADA ban list, which she neglected to do. And yeah, so she was found to test positive for taking Meldonian, and things happened from there that she does discuss in this book. Now, I do need to make a point, though, that while this book opens up talking about the Meldonian scandal in a very summarized format, and while it ends in a very big way discussing the Meldonian scandal, the majority of this book does not at all revolve around that scandal. So if you are looking to pick up this book purely because of the Meldonian scandal, you might be disappointed. This book, let's try that one more time and hope the lighting doesn't screw with us. This book primarily focuses on Maria's life from the moment she is born up until the decision that was made regarding the Meldonian scandal. This was an incredibly entertaining book. I actually planned to read this book in September, so this month, but when I got to the end of last month, I was reading a book that I was about to read, a book that was a tome, and decided to put that book down and instead pick up this one because I wanted to have a slower read, and rather than to rush through that tome. I had 4 days to read this book. You guys, I gobbled this book up in 2 days. And I could have gobbled it up in 1. I literally could have pulled an all-nighter and just kept reading this book because it was so entertaining. So let's talk about some spoiler-free pros and cons about this book. The only real con that I can give you is that the book to me is not long enough. I wish it was a whole lot longer. I wish there was a whole lot more. If this was a 1,000-page book, I would still gladly be reading this book because of how entertaining it was. So the book isn't that long at all. So it's 290 pages. So yeah, I would have liked it if it was a tome, but it is what it is. But that's really all I can give you as far as cons are concerned, because I absolutely love this book and I can't think of anything that I didn't like about this book. When I say this book entertained me from page 1 all the way through to the end, I literally mean that. There was not a single moment throughout this entire book where I thought, I don't like that. I'm bored by that. You probably should not have put that in. Every single page was so good that my only con is I wish there was more of it. My first pro for this book is how real and raw the book actually is. Maria Sharapova pulls no punches in this book. She is extremely honest about things that she had to deal with along the way. She did not have an easy life growing up, and neither did her father. For the majority of Maria's career, she was working with her father in different ways. There was a point where her father came on as her coach, but that didn't happen at the beginning, and he wasn't her coach at the end of her career either. But he was always there with her. And they had a very tough life, getting to the point where she eventually won her first Grand Slam against Serena Williams. So I love the brutal honesty. There's also a moment in this book, I'm not going to say who, but there's a player, another player that I just so happen to love, but anyway, there's a player that Maria talks about quite a lot in this book, and I really appreciated getting Maria's perspective on this particular individual, on this player. I love both of them. I love Maria Sharapova and I love this other one that she's talking about. But the things that Maria says about situations that she's had with this player, I really appreciate that she went there. So Maria copped a lot of flack for talking about this particular high-profile player, but I really appreciate when anyone who writes an autobiography really goes there and they don't hold back, and Maria definitely did that. So, that is my first pro for this book, is the realness and the rawness of this book. My second pro is a twofer, writing style and entertainment. This book is written in a really easy to read writing style. You guys, I feel like anyone can read this book, and the only reason it's an adult book, as I said, is because it deals with there's an aspect of the book that deals with drugs, that deals with Meldonian, and there's also a lot of times where Maria will use the F word. So to me, and this is just to me, that makes this book an adult book. But in saying that, the writing style itself is really accessible. It's really easy to read. It's not flowery at all. And it is extremely entertaining. Now, you need to take into consideration for me that, number one, not only am I a massive tennis fan, in fact, tennis is one of my only sports that I love, and also, in saying that, I am obsessed with the WTA, so the Women's Tennis Association. I watch a little bit of ATP, the men's side, but I'm much more obsessed with the women's side, and I follow them year-round. I have for the majority of my life. So you need to understand that I came into this book not only, you know, loving the sport, but particularly the tour that Maria is on. So for me, it was entertaining to read about her life on that tour, which is a massive part of this book because, yeah, she grew up on the tour. My second reason why this is really entertaining for me is that I grew up being a massive fan of Maria Sharapova. Now, I'll be honest. Tennis fans out there that are watching this, I will be absolutely honest. I was there, not courtside, but I was there in front of my TV. Actually, I was at a friend's place, but anyway, I was in front of my friend's TV because I said, if I'm staying overnight, I was a child at the time. If I'm staying overnight at your place, to my friend, I am watching this match. I was there in front of my friend's TV to watch Maria Sharapova take on Serena Williams in that Wimbledon final, and I wanted Serena to win, and when Maria won, I was extremely disappointed, but I grew to love Maria in the end for so many reasons, particularly her very hard work ethic. She has an amazing work ethic on the court. If you've ever seen Maria play a match, it's really hard, I think, for anyone, even the haters, to deny her hard work ethic and her very tough mentality when she plays matches. So I really appreciated that about her. She's such a fighter on the court as well. So I love tennis. I'm obsessed with the WTA tour. I love Maria Sharapova. And I also think that Maria wrote this book in a way that was generally entertaining anyway. So if any of that appeals to you, definitely read this book because it's very entertaining. My third and final spoiler-free pro, because this has gone on for way too long already, is I have no shame in admitting that I read this book while listening to the audiobook, but I did it for a reason. The audiobook of Unstoppable My Life So Far is done by Maria herself. I always planned on reading this book anyway. This book was really hard to get in Australia, as is Sugarpova. So can anyone tell me how I can access some Sugarpova candy? Because we can't seem to get it in this country, and that is very annoying for me. But I really wanted to read this book from the moment it came out. It took a lot to get this book, but this year, with a number of books, I've had to, as I like to say, climb every mountain, ford every stream, and follow every rainbow till I finally get my dream in my hands. So because of that, I knew that I would be unstoppable, and I would be able to find a way somehow to get this book. But when I found out that Maria Sharapova herself actually does the audio for this book, I was incredibly excited, and it was the right decision for her to do the audio for her own book because she does it really well. And really, any time that an author does the audio for their own book, to me, I feel it's going to be much better because the author knows the intention of the words within the book. So they're going to portray it in the best way that they can. And yeah, this was just so entertaining. I just wish there was a whole lot more of it. So I ended up giving this book 5 stars. But this is where I'm going to leave it for this first spoiler section. I'm going to now go into a... so this was the spoiler-free section. I'm going to go into the spoiler section. However, I will leave a timestamp in the description below for if you want to just skip straight to the end, past the spoiler section, where I wrap it up in the spoiler-free way. But we're going over to the spoiler section right now. So let's start off the spoiler section by talking about the beginnings. So, Yuri Sharapov, Maria's father, so that's a very interesting thing, in case you weren't aware of it. It seems to be, I've never lived in Russia, I've never even visited Russia, but from what I've seen, it seems to be that the Russian male name remains to be whatever the name is, which is Sharapov. However, the Russian female surname always seems to have an A on the end. So we have Yuri Sharapov and Maria Sharapova. And it's the same with a lot of tennis players. We have Svetlana Kuznetsova, whose father's name is Kuznetsov. And the list goes on and on. I could give many examples, but we'll just move into this. Beginnings with Yuri Sharapov. He is given a tennis racket as a laugh. I think a family member or a close friend gave him a tennis racket and they just said, ha ha ha, here's a funny little present, and that was it. But Yuri decided, you know what? Why not go and just have a little hit on a tennis court? So he took Maria with him just for something fun to do, and Maria seemed to pick up tennis like that. It was so quick, and she loved playing it. She developed this mentality of, I love to just go out there and hit the ball. Anytime I'm in a good mood, a bad mood, or whatever it is, to go on a tennis court and just hit. Have a ball fed to you, hit it back. Have another ball fed to you, hit it back. She loved that. I can absolutely relate to this. So for me, I grew up playing in a couple of what we here in Australia might call Mickey Mouse tournaments, so they weren't that big. But one thing I always loved about any type of training was just hitting a ball. I think it's wonderful to just stand there and hit a tennis ball. It's a lot of fun, so I totally get what she's saying. But anyway, this is what led to Maria going where she ended up going in this book and with her career. Eventually, she ends up getting coached by a guy named Yuri Yudkin, and Yuri Yudkin ends up telling Maria's father that she is such an immense talent that she needs to be seen. And Maria is still very, very young at this age. Apparently, there is a tennis clinic that is going on in Moscow. So, again, I don't know Russia that well, but Maria was born and raised in Sochi. So Moscow was quite a bit away, but Yuri Yudkin says she has to be seen. There's a tennis showcase going on in Moscow, and there's going to be a lot of pro tennis players over there. You need to get her there. Come heaven or high water, you have to get Maria to this showcase. And there seemed to be a lot of times when Maria's father was told by a lot of different people, you have to get Maria to this thing. Because if you don't get her to this thing, she's not going to be able to achieve her full potential. One thing that I really appreciate about her father, Yuri Sharapov, is that a lot of people, and I love that Maria also mentioned this in the book, a lot of people felt, including myself, that Yuri was a very cold sort of person, because every match that he was watching of Maria's in her players box, her players section, he was always wearing a cap and sunglasses and really hiding behind these things. But according to Maria, he is just such a lovely, down-to-earth guy. Not only that, he gave up everything for his daughter. And the more you read this book, the more you realize how much her father gave up for her. So they end up going to the showcase where a lot of different tennis players, they're not really playing with the pro tennis players. The pro tennis players are just more walking around, weaving in and out between the courts and just generally having a quick glance and looking at what's going on. Eventually, a very well-known tennis player by the name of Martina Navratilova walks past the court that Maria is playing on during this showcase, and she says she has a discussion with Maria's father, again, someone else talking to him, and she says to him, she really has it. She has what it takes to do extremely well professionally. But you're not going to excel her, keeping her here in Russia. The best thing you can do is take her to the United States, where they have actual facilities that are set up for players like Maria, who are very young, who can really help her to hone her craft and get to that stage of being on the professional tour. So Maria and her father talk about this, and her father decides to throw away everything that he has set up for his own life and just leave Russia and go with Maria to, I believe they went to Florida. I believe it was Florida. They left Russia, Maria says, with $700. That's all they had. And they landed in Florida looking for the Nick Bollettieri's Tennis Academy. Now, $700 in the United States isn't a lot of money, but apparently in Sochi, this would have been a lot of money, but not in the US. Eventually, they get to the Tennis Academy, and Nick Bollettieri's is very well known. For those of you who don't follow tennis who are watching this review, thank you for watching the review, because it's a tennis autobiography, so hopefully I've intrigued you so far. It's a very well-known tennis academy that's turned out many successful champions, but certainly of note, we have Venus and Serena Williams, as well as Anna Kournikova. More about that in a moment. But anyway, so Maria and her father end up getting to Nick Bollettieri's Tennis Academy, and everything seems to be fine. Until they say to Maria's father, now, here's the bill. Here's how much you need to pay. You guys, I don't remember how much it was, but the amount is insane. Oh my gosh. I feel like these tennis academies are set up for rich socialites who have a ton of money to just blow, and Maria and her father clearly did not have that. There were times where I had an aspiration to become a professional tennis player, and one of the academies I wanted to join was Nick Bollettieri's. Another one was the Sanchez Acal Academy, I think it is, over in Spain. These are two very amazing academies that have turned out many wonderful players because of all the things that they do at these facilities. They're just set up, particularly, as I said earlier, to hone these players and prepare them for the professional circuit. But anyway, the bill is massive, and there is no way that Maria's father can pay this. However, a lesser man would have said, okay, look, you know what, we tried, and let's go. But in the end, and it takes a bit to get there, but in the end, Maria's father ends up negotiating a contract for Maria, a scholarship contract for Maria, where they pay for Maria to be there themselves because of just how good she is. Now, in saying that, there were times where Maria's father had to do work to maintain that contract. So there were times where he would train with other players. There were times where he would go off and do architectural work. There was a time where, while he was doing an architectural job, he actually hurt his back to the point where he couldn't move, and no one found him for hours. And then when he was eventually found, the owner of the club house or wherever it was that he was working said, oh no, let's not call an ambulance because that's so very expensive, so let's just leave him there. They really treated Maria's father terribly in the US, so I just have to say that. Like, I have nothing against America at all, but they really just treated him horribly. Speaking of being treated horribly, so was Maria. At the Nick Bollettieri's Tennis Academy, a lot of players seemed to be, according to Maria, and I can see how this would happen, she was treated rather horribly at the Nick Bollettieri's Tennis Academy. There were a number of other players that were there with her. Some of the players she name-dropped, and considering what we saw of, what I've seen of these players on the Pro Tour, I can see how they would have been jealous of her. Maria has always had a gift. Ever since she was really young, she could play really well. It was like she was a pro at 7 or 6. And if you go back and watch videos of her as a young child, you can see that she was always meant to be a player that was going to come on to the tour. It's just the way it was. But they were extremely jealous of her. Then she ended up, there are two Nick Bollettieri's tennis academies, and the second one is where Anna Kournikova was training. Maria ended up transferring over to that one for reasons that really don't matter, but she ended up transferring. And a lot of people were extremely jealous of her, especially Anna Kournikova's mother, because for those of you who don't know, Anna Kournikova is a former tennis player, and she was also in, I believe it was called Hero, the video clip for Enrique Iglesias's song, Hero. Anyway, Anna Kournikova was very well known around the world for many different reasons. Yes, she was a tennis player, but now let me give you my humble, brutally honest opinion on Anna Kournikova. Anna Kournikova, and this is spoken about so much behind the scenes, you guys. It's not just me saying this. A lot of people say this because we just know it's true. Anna Kournikova was never the best tennis player. No. Maybe in her junior career, but never in her senior career. There were things that went on that some people say affected the transition for her from junior to senior from junior to pro, which we call senior. But she was never a good tennis player. But she had amazing looks, model-esque looks. And these looks, and here is your frank saying, these looks that Anna Kournikova had put bums on seats. That is the phrase that will always follow Anna with her tennis career. That is now over, but because of how beautiful and model-esque Anna Kournikova looked, she sold a lot of tickets. People came to watch her play because she was a gorgeous woman. So, because she put bums on seats and sold a lot of tickets, she was always featured on the massive show course because she would make a lot of money for the tournament. Maria Sharapova is completely different. Now, I want to give you another example of Anna Kournikova very quickly because we're going to run out of time, but I've experienced this. So, quite a number of years ago, I went to Sydney to stay with a friend, and while I was there, we went to a tournament over there that at that time was known as the Adidas International. It's had many different names since then, and while I was there, I was watching Anna Kournikova take on a player that I don't remember who she was playing. Anyway, halfway through the match, and I'm serious, like, we are in, I think, the second set. Somewhere in the second set, we're in the midst of a game. It was something like 30-all or 15-30, something like that. There were photographers that were on the edge of the sidelines. They have a little barrier where they can go to take photos for the newspapers and websites and stuff like that. The photographers were yelling out, Anna, pose, let's take a photo. She had a ball in her hand. She was getting ready to serve. So what does she do? She takes the ball over to the photographers. We're in the middle of a game here. She takes the ball over to the photographers and starts posing for them. And then went back to serve the ball. Are you freaking kidding me? This is not how you do things unless you're Anna Kournikova. Anyway, there was a lot of jealousy with Anna Kournikova's mum, with Maria being there, because Anna was blonde-haired, blue-eyed, and Maria was blonde-hair, brown-eyed, both of them Russian, and it seems that Anna Kournikova's mother got Maria kicked out of the academy. To cut a long story short, Maria went through a ton of hardship after that. That was just really tough. They were nearly kicked out of homes that they were renting many times, because it was just very hard for them to make a living. And also, there was a time where Maria ended up joining another tennis academy after Anna Kournikova's mum got her kicked out of Nick Bollettieri's. And over at this extremely slimy, rude guy's academy, he actually took her father and her passport and held it hostage and made them sign a contract saying that he owns them, basically. It was a horrible thing for her to go through. But eventually, she goes on to Wimbledon and wins that match, and everything started changing for her overnight. She got a ton of sponsorship and just continued to do very well. There were a lot of players that were jealous of her because she made a lot of money on the side, which I can appreciate. She made millions of dollars in sponsorship alone. So I can appreciate that the jealousy was there and appreciate the jealousy at the same time. And she did really well. And then we end the book with the Maldonian scandal, and yeah, how that went down. And Maria is very raw and real and honest when it comes to this scandal, saying that she didn't check the list, she didn't know that it was banned, it was a drug she had been taking for many, many years because of a heart condition that she had, and she just didn't know. It was an honest mistake. So they ended up, she ended up going in front of the ITF board, the International Tennis Federation board, where they could give her anywhere from 1 to 4 years suspension from the tour because of this. They ended up giving her 2 years, but the ITF board selected 3 ITF judges to preside over a case between the ITF versus Sharapova. So it was a completely unfair case that was always going to go for the ITF. So her lawyer appealed. They always knew they were going to lose the first round. They appealed to a neutral sporting federation judge, and those judges ended up taking her ban down to 14 months, and then she came back on the tour and ended up doing really well, and then retired a couple of years after that. This is a very compelling book. We're going to now go back over to spoiler free so I can wrap things up. This just was an amazing book. I'm so happy that I picked it up. I'm so happy that Maria did the audio for it. And as I said at the beginning, I just wish this book was so much longer than it actually was. I love this. If Maria brings out any more books in the future, I definitely plan on reading them because she just makes them really entertaining. If you would like to read a book that is about Maria Sharapova, or any kind of autobiography that's really intriguing, pick up Unstoppable by Maria Sharapova. I gave it 5 stars. I'm going to leave it there and let you guys go. Peace, blessings, and so much love. I post videos every Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday, and I'll see you again soon. Mwah. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you soon. Happy reading. Bye, guys. Bye.